So, so last year I started a series showing you how to use PySpark and Spark, and so I wanted to take it to a new place where I show you how to use Spark across a cluster of nodes for parallel processing on data. And I thought, okay, what's the best way to do that? So, if I were to take you into using AWS EMR, I will show you how to do that at some point, but I think for most of us, the easiest and most inexpensive way to do that is perhaps use our own cluster. And the cheapest way to do that is to use microprocessors like the Raspberry Pi. And you can create as many nodes as you like for a very sort of inexpensive means of doing that. And if one of them, if you want to replace one of the nodes, then it's quite cheap to do that. So Raspberry Pis are really good. I'm quite familiar with using them for various purposes. And so right now I'm showing you a cluster of 5 nodes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this tower. And then over here we've got the Raspberry Pi 3s. I don't really use the Raspberry Pi 3 version so much anymore. I think that's like 2 gigabytes or 1 gigabyte RAM. And the latest version is 4 gigabytes. There is another version which is quite new, and it comes with 8 gigabytes. And the 8 gigabyte one is going into around the €80 territory, but the 4 gigabyte one is very sufficient, and it's around, I paid about €58 or €55 for one of these, so they're quite cheap. On the top, this is a Jetson Nano. I don't really use the Jetson Nano very much. It arrived faulty where the charging port is, it can't really hold the cable very well, and as you can see the light is coming on and off. And luckily I haven't bricked it from doing that, so it's not really dependable to have that on all the time because the cable will just come out. Also, it doesn't come with Wi-Fi, so I've had to put my own Wi-Fi dongle in there. And this particular dongle is quite slow, so it's not really suitable for what I need to do. But it has a lot of potential. These have the NVIDIA chip. It has a lot of threads within that particular chip, and it can do AI stuff. That's what it's meant for, machine learning. And so hopefully I will get to use this at some point. The other disadvantage is that at the time Ubuntu 18 was only available for it, which was recommended to be used with the NVIDIA chip on this particular device. And so on the microprocessors, I much prefer to use Kali Linux, which is what I'm going to put in here, and that's what I'll show you how to load into this Raspberry Pi. And Kali Linux is very dependable. It's always on. I've never had any problems with it. It's very quick. Raspbian and Ubuntu are quite slow, and I've always had problems with those, even Ubuntu server. So I just stick to Kali on the Raspberry Pi. On the desktop, Kali for me is just too much. It's just too overloaded. So I'd rather have a stripped down version of Linux, which is why I use Ubuntu on my desktop. But for Raspberry Pis, I really like using Kali. So the other good thing about Kali is that on the ARM architecture, Kali already comes with a lot of dependencies which you would probably want to put on there, and that can be a bit of a problem sometimes on Raspbian or Ubuntu, where you're trying to load libraries and it's failing. So what I'll do, I will show you how to all the way from the beginning create one of these towers. I will show you how to format an SD card, load Kali Linux as a boot operating system onto that card, and in addition to that I'll show you how to boot into it headless, so you don't have to connect a keyboard or a monitor into the Raspberry Pi. We can just SSH straight into it and set it up and get it up and running as we need to, so we can get a good decent cluster of nodes, Raspberry Pi nodes. So cluster and node are just terminology which is used in data engineering, data science. So it just really means a node is just a device and a cluster is a group of devices. And if you're a beginner, you can follow along. So I try to keep my tutorials easy to digest. So I try to aim it at anyone who would like to follow along. But if you're not technical, that's absolutely fine. What I'll do, I will now show you how to build one of these. So before I start, I just want to quickly show you something. So if you've been following along with my other tutorials, you'll notice that I kind of jump all over the place when I'm using Vim. And the reason for that, I'm now going to show you, is my keyboard. So this is a System 76 Lima laptop, and it's a really good laptop, but what they've done, they've tried to get as much as they can in a small amount of space, and with these arrow keys they've been divided. So as you can see, for example, these buttons here, these are full buttons for your fingers, but they've divided these buttons into two. So when I hit left, right, up, down, sometimes I hit the wrong button because it's just not enough space for my finger. So that explains that if you've seen me do that quite a lot, and I'll probably do that quite a lot in the future too. Alright, so let's see what we've got here. So I've got a load of discs. These are scan discs, and these are scan disc SD cards, and I've got quite a few here which I bought from Amazon, and I've got some 64s and I've got some 256 ones. So the 256 are the ones that I'm going to use. So in the early days of Raspberry Pis, I think the max was about 64 gigabyte, and with the version 4s they can easily take 256. So that's the one which I'm going to use. Alright, so I'll just put these to the side, and then we've got some cables. So these are just really USB charging cables, and I bought a pack of 3 which cost me €7. I think I probably could have got them a bit cheaper and a few more, but I've got some good quality ones. So when I build the cluster, I'll need to plug those in. I've only got 3, so I'm sure I've got another one somewhere else. Alright, so the next thing we've got is we've got the tower, but before I show you the tower, I'll show you my Raspberry Pis. So I've already opened these up, and what I've done on each of these, I've already placed a heatsink on both of these chips. So you've got a chip here and you've got a chip here, and I've already placed heat sinks on these, so I've already taken them out of the packet. But this is how they arrive. They're the 4 gigabyte RAM version, nice little boxes. I really love the Raspberry Pis. So I'll just put these to the side. And this is the tower. So there's a lot of stuff in here. Screwdriver. I've got the instructions here. This is what it gets attached to. I've got some fans. So the Raspberry Pi doesn't really heat up that much. It does get hot, but it's not really like dangerously hot. You can still use it without a fan, but it's good to put a fan on there. The only thing I find about attaching fans is that after about a couple of weeks you want to take them off, because dust gets inside and they make a lot of noise, and if you don't attach them tight enough they can rattle. So if you've got the Raspberry Pi tower in the same room that you're sleeping in, it's just going to make a lot of noise. But without the fan, Raspberry Pis make no noise at all. And I've just got some screws here. and this is what we use to build the tower, to connect the tower. More screws, heat sinks. So the heat sinks I've already put on. I'll just take these out. So this is what they look like. This is an adhesive backing. You just peel that off and you just put that on top of your chips. So I don't need to have those. I've already put them on. Alright, so yeah, let's start building this tower. So that's the bottom. These go in the middle. And I've built quite a few towers. Sometimes it can take a little while to get it right because you're not sure what goes where. This is obviously the top. I know that's the top because it's got this, and on the top one you want to access the IOs, and then the ones that go inside the tower you can access the IOs anyway from inside. So IO is just input, output, and those are the pins. So I'll just give you a quick understanding what's here. So here we've got 4 USBs, we've got version 2 USB, we've got version 3 USB, we've got Ethernet. So if you have trouble connecting by Wi-Fi, then you can just plug it in. But I will show you how to connect this headless. Here you've got 2 HDMIs, mini HDMI connections, so you can connect 2 monitors. I only connect 1 monitor, but then nowadays I don't really connect a monitor at all because, as mentioned, we're going to connect this as headless. And then you've got the USB-C charging port here. You've got 2 cameras. You've got a camera here and you've got a camera here. And I have done some camera work in the past, and soon I hope to do something quite interesting. So I bought a telescope and I want to connect a Raspberry Pi to the telescope and do some time-lapse stuff. But this is the really good stuff here. This is the IOs, input-output pins, general input-output pins, and you do this for automation. You could do robotics, you can do anything, and I've done some really good automation throughout the house. So I really love Raspberry Pis, like cheap, and they're just so versatile, and they're really enjoyable to use. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to connect the fans. So this is the top one. So what we want to do, we want to connect the pins, the negative and the positive pins, to the closest side of the general IOs, and then you connect it. You're going to connect this one. All of these are different. You've got different manufacturers for these towers, and they're all quite different. But on this one, you connect it. You connect the fan to the top platform, so it blows air onto the bottom one. So that's the top of the fan. That's the bottom of the fan. So I'll just get these get all of these screws out. Put them on the table. So these are the screws for the fan. Alright, so I'm going to start with the top, and I'll just screw that in. And then the top one, I need to put this on there. I don't need to put it on there, but it's just there to put on there, and I guess it's to keep out any sort of like foreign stuff going on top. It's definitely not going to keep out dust, and there will be a problem with dust at some point. And then once I get that problem with dust, I'll just disconnect the fan because it's just going to be irritating to hear that throughout the night. If it's a consistent noise, then you can kind of like live through that. But when it's a noise that is not consistent, then it will just wake you up. This is quite fiddly to put on. And you want to make it tight as well, so that way it doesn't rattle. Because there's nothing more annoying than a rattling fan, right? And I don't want to lose any screws either. So the first thing I'll do, I'll just put all of attach all of my fans, and then I'll attach the Raspberry Pis to the platforms. The first time I bought Raspberry Pis, I think I bought about 5 of them. And what I did, I built a cluster for Hadoop, and I didn't buy a tower. I thought, okay, I'll just buy this, but buy the Raspberry Pis for the first time, but I'm not going to bother with a tower. And then it was really hard to manage it, so I had it in a shoebox. And then it was like, wires coming all over the place. It was hard to kind of understand what was going on. But then once I started using towers, it was just so much more manageable. Just tighten that up. I'm sorry if this is out of focus, so I'll try and hold it down if I can, so it's in focus. So that's the top layer, that's what it's going to look like. You've got this bit on top, and then you've got the fan at the bottom, and you've got this wire closer to the IOs. Right, so that's the first one. I'll just do the rest. So that's the bottom platform, don't need to do anything with that just yet. I want to attach the rest of the fans to the other platforms. So these are the middle ones, and this thing here, that's just giving you space where to insert the SD card. So, yeah, Raspberry Pis are really good. It's a really amazing cheap processor that you can just do so much with it. I have had, the first microprocessor I bought was a Beagle Bone Black, and it was pretty good because you can just connect it by USB to your computer, and then you can SSH into it like that, which is really convenient. But then, with microprocessors are just like computers where they all crash, and you have to kind of force turn them off. So you just unplug it, and then I did that, just turned it off by the power because it crashed, and then by doing that it bricked, and so yeah, I just didn't bother with Beagle Bone Black anymore. And then I got the Raspberry Pis, and the Raspberry Pis for me were just fantastic. And I just stuck with the Raspberry Pis, and then I did try, as I said, I've got the Jetson Nano. But to be honest with you, I could just do everything I want on the Raspberry Pi. I don't really see the need for the Jetson Nano. And once you start going over €100, I just think they're too expensive. The price point for microprocessors should be under €100. Once you start going over that, I just think it's too much money, to be honest. Just tighten that up. That should be fine. Could have done it the other way around, but that should be okay, as long as I can point that downwards. So put that to the side, and another 2 more fans. So this tower comes with 4. It's able to accommodate 4 Raspberry Pis. And I have seen pictures of people who have built clusters of, like, I don't know, like loads of Raspberry Pis, and that'd be interesting. That'd be an interesting thing to do, and see what power you can get out of it. And the good thing about these microprocessors is that, when you can put like an SD card in there which has 256 gigabytes. I mean, laptops in general come with 256 gigabytes of hard disk space. So, and then also you can connect external hard drives to them, which is really good. So the worry of an SD card failing or coming to the end of its lifetime is not really an issue, because you can just connect an external drive, and then you can just put everything on there. So just use the Raspberry Pi as a way to process data, and then to store data just use something else. Yep, that's okay. Just one more. But yeah, you don't really need to use the fans. The fans just come with the tower, and they're sort of like a nice to have. And the other good thing about Raspberry Pis, or just microprocessors in general, is that they consume very low power. You can keep them on 24/7 all the time. They make no noise, and you can even run them from a battery, a portable battery. And I've even tried to connect solar power. So what I would do is I would have a solar power panel continuously charging up my battery, and then connect the battery to the Raspberry Pi. So So that was like a cheap way of having it on all the time. Alright, that's tight. So I've now got my 4 fans connected. Now what I want to do is connect a Raspberry Pi. So the way it's going to go is going to go like this. So you've got the fan on top, the Raspberry Pi on the bottom, like that. So what I need to do, I need to connect the Raspberry Pi on top, because the Raspberry Pi will sit on top like that. And then you've got the bottom one, and then you have a Raspberry Pi connected to the bottom one, like that. So maybe what I can do, I can connect the bottom one first. So these small things here, you need to attach them like that, and a screw goes underneath, and then the Raspberry Pi sits on top, and you screw it to these things. So these small screws go underneath. So I'll put the small screw in first. And I can probably do that with all of these first. So if I just get a little production line going, and I can just do that. But like I say, everyone manufactures these differently. So I've had to do it in different ways. And sometimes you can do it incorrectly, and then you realise, and then you have to take it all apart again. Alright, so that's the bottom one. So I might as well do the others. So that's 2 of them, another 2 more to do. another one. Just one more. Okay, so that's 4 of them in, and now I can attach my pies. So the pie will go on top. So I'll just show you what that looks like. So fan on the bottom, screws in, and then the Raspberry Pi goes on top. And then this is where the SD card goes. So this groove here allows you some space to insert that in. So it just goes on top like that. But what I'll do, I'm going to build it from the bottom. So I'll start with the bottom one first. So this is the bottom one. And then I just need to screw it in place. Quite a tight space to get into here. So I normally avoid putting a screw there because that's really hard to get into. So I'll just put one here, I think. No, I think they're both the same kind of. But yeah, I'll just do 3. So I won't bother with putting 4. I mean that's pretty secure anyway. So that's not going to cause any issues. So 4 Raspberry Pis. So I'll attach each of the Raspberry Pis to their platforms first. I think it's probably easier here. Well, I did this one okay the first time, didn't I? So let's try that again. That's really tough. Try over here again. That's not easy putting that on. There you go. Just another 2 more. Oh, almost fell. You have to have a lot of patience when doing this. Okay, that's 3. And 1 more to go. You have to be very nimble when putting these on. Okay, that's done. That is also secure. Alright, so let's start off with the bottom one. Alright, so this is the bottom one, and we need to attach these things to it. So put some more screws here. Or nuts. So this is going to be like the pillar, which you stack it onto. And these are way easier to put on, I think. There should be one more of those. I think I'm missing one. Oh, here it is. Oh, that's not it. Yeah, I think I'm missing one. Well, let's see if this works. I really am missing one. Okay. I can still connect 3 on that one. But I'm sure it will turn up. I'll connect 3. That's not really nice, but I'll connect 3 for the moment. 3 pillars. But first, what I need to do, I need to connect these. So I've got positive, I've got negative. So the very last pins, that is positive. And as you can see, we've then got negative. The very last 2 pins, like that. Yep, I didn't connect it to the very first pin. There you go. Very first 2 pins. So that fan is now connected, the one at the bottom. And I'm sure that other screw will turn up somewhere. Yeah, I'm sure it will turn up somewhere. Okay, just trying to have a look to see if I can find it. Not a big deal. The tower will still be secure. Just missing one here. But that's still fine. And then just start stacking them. Okay, that is going to be a problem, by the way, because I need to secure that at the bottom. What can I do? Figure something out. Ah, there it is. I can see it. It's still in the packaging. Just unconnect that. There it is. says here. Right, now we can do this properly. Okay, so I'm connect that back in. And place that on top. Maybe if I hold it that way, then you can see. Okay, another one. And for the last one, this is going to be the top. And then I've got screws on the top to hold it into place. that's it. Here we've got a tower of, or a cluster of 4 nodes. So one of these will be a master, and I'll have 3 of them as a worker when I set up my Spark cluster. Alright, so what I'll do, I'll create another video of formatting the SD card, and then also copying over a boot image of Kali Linux to the card, and then connecting to each node headless. So yeah. All right. Cheers.